What is going on, Mouseketeers? I am Casey, and today we're cracking open Disney's most inconvenient history book easily, the package era. Yeah, Disney, the company that owns the copyright on your childhood, polishes it until it gleams, and hides everything that might tarnish the shine. But deep in the depths of their castle of an empire is locked a vault. Inside is an entire era of films so strange, stitched together from desperation, sometimes so politically radioactive that Disney has spent decades pretending they never happened at all. This isn't one embarrassing sequel they're pretending doesn't exist. This is nearly a decade of off kilter, and today we are picking the lock.
Welcome, Joe. Do drop in.
Muito obrigado, senor. You are so gracious with the red carpet. Oh, but it's getting late. I must be going. Have a cigar. See you later, Mr. Gator.
Let's first understand how the king of fairy tales wound up licking Uncle Sam's boot to make government propaganda. For that, we have to go back to the early 1940s. On the surface, Disney was riding high. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs had been a massive success, and the studio followed it up with a string of films still seen as masterpieces in their genre today. Pinocchio, Fantasia, Bambi, these films cemented Disney as the titan of animation we still know it as today.
Pretty amazing, isn't it, Bambi?
But there was the problem. These movies, except for Dumbo, were like Fabergé eggs, breathtakingly beautiful, artistically brilliant, and catastrophically expensive. Pinocchio and Fantasia were both box office flops in their first run. To make matters worse, World War II erupted, well, across most of the world.
For hours, days, and months, for endless period, every woman and child becomes Stalingrad's defender against furious, increasing Nazi sky and land attacks.
Instantly cutting off about half of Disney's foreign market. This was money the company desperately needed to stay afloat, and it nearly all vanished overnight. So while the bank accounts were bleeding, the happiest place on earth was having an absolute meltdown at home. The studio was a pressure cooker of creative forces. Hundreds of artists were growing more and more resentful of the low pay and lack of credit for their work. For 5 bitter months, the studio was paralyzed as the workers went on strike. The artists who drew Dopey were now drawing picket signs. The strike left a deep, extremely personal scar on Walt Disney and fractured his vision of an idealized family. By the end of 1941, the Magic Kingdom was nearly bankrupt, its markets were dwindling, and its artists were at war with one another. The Golden Age was officially over, and that's when Uncle Sam came knocking with an offer that would save the company, but also change it.
I see a song of past romance. I see the sacrifice of man. I see portrayals of betrayal and a brother's final stand. I see you on the brink of death. I see you try a final breath. I see a man who gets to make it home alive, but it's no longer.
With war spreading, the Roosevelt administration was getting nervous about Nazi and fascist influence in Latin America. They needed to keep the neighbors on friendly terms, so they launched a charm offensive called, well, the Good Neighbor Policy. And who better to be America's wingman than Mickey Mouse? Or, in this case, Donald Duck, I guess. The U.S. State Department made Disney an offer he couldn't refuse, an all-expenses-paid goodwill tour of South America, with government subsidies for any movies that came from it. For a studio drowning in debt, this was the lifeline Disney desperately needed. Walt and his top artists that were still around, apparently nicknamed El Grupo, jetted off to South America. The result we got was 1942's Saludos Amigos, officially the first of Disney's package era films, basically a bunch of shorts stitched together to make a feature. And just ignore Fantasia, that is too good for this group apparently. Where earlier it was artistic expression, here it was a format born of pure financial desperation. Saludos Amigos is a bizarre time capsule, part time travel documentary, part cartoon, featuring Donald Duck battling a stubborn llama and Goofy trying his hand at being an Argentinian gaucho. Most importantly, it introduced Jose Carioca,
Não, senhor. José Carioca, Rio de Janeiro, Brasil.
a suave, cigar smoking Brazilian parrot who learns Donald the samba. For a film that was meant to celebrate Latin American culture, it often felt like it was looking at it through a tourist's kaleidoscope of stereotypes. Still, it was by all means a diplomatic success. But after Pearl Harbor, the pretense of a simple cultural exchange all but evaporated. Disney Studios essentially became a branch of the American war machine. Not only did the studios house U.S. troops, coincidence, but it doesn't look good. They cranked out training films and then full-blown propaganda, most of which Disney has never publicly released. The most famous, though, is Der Führer's Face, the Oscar-winning short where Donald Duck has a nightmare of being part of the Nazi war machine. The studio that built its name on gentle fawns was now using its most beloved characters to sell war bonds and demonize the enemy.
Watch them use the firepower of mobile equipment to overcome the deadly disease germs.
Now, if Saludos Amigos was a polite handshake, its sequel, The Three Caballeros, was a friendly offer of psychedelic mushrooms. This film doubles down on everything. We immediately get another new character in the Fifth Amendment supporting rooster Panchito Pistoles from Mexico, and then sends the trio on a truly bizarre adventure for the ages. What makes this movie so memorable and frankly a little weird is its aggressive mix of animation and live action. We got a little bit of this in the last movie, but this is Donald Duck actively lusting after a real human woman for long stretches. Our favorite cartoon duck relentlessly pursues actresses on the beaches of Acapulco. His eyes pop, his jaw drops, there is probably an awooga sound effect. And the whole thing feels less like a charming Disney movie and more like a very, very strange episode of animated Jackass. But soon the war ended. The government money dried up where Disney's financial problems did not. So what do? Keep pumping out package films like Make Mine Music and Melody Time, essentially reheating leftovers from the Fantasia concept, but with more contemporary music. This era has become a graveyard, though, of forgotten and censored content that we will get to a little bit more later on. It was the fallout from this era that taught Disney a crucial lesson. Some stories are more profitable when they are forgotten. These are the kind of histories I find fascinating and we try to cover on this channel all the time.
Chihuahua, suaves.
You have probably heard of Song of the South. Released in 1946, it was a massive film. It was an ambitious project that blended live action with Disney's classic animation. It was based on the Uncle Remus folktales, which were already controversial in the 40s for their romanticized depiction of the southern United States' Reconstruction era. This movie, while you may have heard about it but probably haven't seen, it tells the story of a young white boy visiting his grandmother's plantation and befriending the kind elderly black storyteller in Uncle Remus, played earnestly by James Baskett. Uncle Remus tells him fables about Briar Rabbit, and it's these fables that come to life in the animated sequences.
What's the matter with you? I said howdy.
Now, don't think the controversy around this movie is anything new, though. It was immediate. The NAACP and other civil rights groups protested the film on day one for its deeply sanitized portrayal of a post-Civil War plantation life, erasing the horrors of slavery and the brutality of the Jim Crow South.
By the old Negro storytellers.
Critics even called it dangerous propaganda that glorified a system of oppression. What sucks is that the character of Uncle Remus is at the core of a lot of the problems, and I understand it after having seen the movie. James Baskett delivers a performance full of warmth and dignity, one for which he received an honorary Academy Award. But the character was even then a tired stereotype. He was the happy, subservient minority whose only purpose is to help those in power.
Magical Negroes.
Cruelest irony, the film premiered in segregated Atlanta, where James Baskett, its star, was barred from entering the theater. I won't deny the movie was a box office hit.
Walt Disney's Song of the South is back.
It was re-released in theaters for decades. Its theme song, Zippity Doo Dah, won an Oscar and became a beloved Disney anthem, one that I grew up loving and singing because of the sing-along VHS tapes. But it had to be completely disconnected from its toxic source. With each subsequent re-release, the protests grew louder. Eventually, long after Walt passed away, Disney locked Song of the South in its infamous vault, and it has never been officially released on home video or any streaming platform in the US since.
Uncle Remus, what you doing?
I was going away.
Back into the Disney vault.
But we live in a world where burying Song of the South did not erase it.
This holiday season, Walt Disney's Song of the South is back on the big screen. Rated G.
Instead, it created a ghost that has haunted the company for decades. Its influence has been hiding in plain sight. For over 30 years, Splash Mountain was one of the most celebrated rides in the company's theme park. The Log Flume ride was a direct adaptation of the film's animated sequences, featuring Briar Rabbit and friends, all set to the tune of my childhood.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay.
It is a masterclass in laundering history, keeping the profitable animals in catchy song and dumping all of the problematic context. This raises a huge question. Is locking these films away the right move? Former CEO Bob Iger stated in 2020 that he felt Song of the South is just not appropriate in today's world, even with a warning. The argument seems to be that while a film like Peter Pan has problematic scenes, the entire premise of Song of the South is built on a harmful romanticization of history. The offense isn't part of the movie, it's the movie's entire DNA. To me, this is probably the best response and reasoning to keep Uncle Remus in solitary, but how does Disney acknowledge this happened without also appearing to sweep it under the metaphorical rug? It's a serious question I don't know the answer to.
Hear ye, hear ye! The grand opening celebration of Splash Mountain is about to commence.
Well, what are we waiting for?
But Song of the South isn't officially part of the Disney canon, let alone the package era. I hear you saying. And you know what? You are right. But at the same time, most of the package era was added into the canon retroactively. If Disney didn't push to have Tangled become their 50th animated feature, I am pretty confident half of these movies wouldn't be a part of the canon.
I'm malicious, mean and scary. My sneer could curdle dairy. And violence-wise, my hands are not the cleanest.
And the ones that are, most have been chopped in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's Pecos Bill's smoking, jazzy side boob, or even the entirety of segments like the Martins and the Coys, you have more than likely not seen and will not get a chance to see these movies in their original forms. Not unless you know the workaround where many people have put a significant effort into preserving and making these pieces accessible in some form. I know I saw most of these segments growing up entirely out of context, as shorts played at Disney resorts or just thrown up on early internet in short form. I don't recall ever seeing these movies be made front and center in Disney's marketing, or even as VHS tapes in the Disney store.
In the tradition of Disney's greatest musicals, Disney is now opening up its vault to honor the 50th anniversary of its 10th animated classic, Melody Time.
We did get pieces on sing-along tapes, but if you wanted these movies, you had to search for them until Disney Plus came along, and even then, Make My Music is still unavailable on the service. But what do you think? Should Disney keep these controversial films locked away or release them with historical context? Is it just responsible brand management or is it a form of hiding skeletons in the closet? Please let me know in the comments. This Disney era was the company's awkward adolescence. The studio survived on scraps, stitching them into features. They occasionally stumbled into something unforgettable, and occasionally something they'll never admit to again. Without it, Disney might not have made it into the shimmering 1950s and its silver age. But with it, they left behind these ghosts, films too messy to brand and yet too important to erase. Oh shit. There is Grover Cleveland's presidential time machine, ready to take off. I'm gonna see you in a couple weeks, and remember, the real magic isn't pretending the past was perfect, it's learning from the mess and owning up to the whole history, and doing your best to make sure the next chapter is a little bit closer to that happily ever after.
Upcoming episodes on Frankenstein, Heisei Godzilla, Doctor Who, The Second Doctor, Avatar The Last Airbender, Seven Samurai,